Hello, everybody. What is going on? We're back. Another episode of Commercial Roofing Radio. Our next guest, I've been seeing him all over the place, right? He's got his own podcast with over 100 episodes. Right? He's all good at this SEO, online advertising things. It seems like I see his face everywhere. Jim Ahlin is the owner and the co-founder of Roofer Marketers. He's also the host of the Roofing Success podcast. Like I said, over 100 episodes, a lot of great information. So when you're not listening here, make sure you're checking out his show. He's got a great background in sales, marketing, technology, entrepreneurship, and honestly, we're just kind of getting to know each other, but from our conversations, super smart guy. So I'm pumped to have him on the show. We're going to be talking a lot about, different tools, different technologies that contractors are using and how they're using them. So hopefully you guys can do the same thing. So Jim, what's going on?
It's awesome, man. How's it going?
Hey, I'm living the dream, my man. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun. It's always fun talking to someone else who geeks out on stuff like I do.
Well, we were geeking out, man. It's funny. I've seen you all over the place. I've seen you at conferences. I've seen you online. I've checked out your podcast. But we really never had a chance to talk. Also, we started talking about like CRMs, proposal tools, automations, man. And I was like, all right, this is going to be a fun conversation. So have you always been kind of like a tech nerd in a way, or you kind of geek out on that kind of stuff, or what's the background there?
Yeah, for sure, man. I got a degree in management of information systems I started in college in the late 90s and then finished it in the early 2000s, like 2002. And when I heard about that degree, of people that don't know that degree, it's computer science, half business administration. So I've never been full geek as far as computer science, right? I've always been geek and entrepreneurship at the same time. And that's been me. I love business. I love the entrepreneurship. I mean, I sold candy door to door in junior high. I had a paper route when I was 11, you know what I mean? Like I was always hustling. So it was always in me to do stuff like that. And then in that time period, it was like, the tech bubble of the late 90s. And I was like, man, half computer science, half business administration. How can I go wrong?
For real though. And that's such an interesting combo.
Right.
You really don't hear that very often, where it's kind of like the tech geek who's also very entrepreneurial. Usually that would be almost two separate people, right? That could be like two founders, one's good at that, one's good at the other thing. And so that's such a great combination to have. And like you said, so I mean, you saw kind of the tech bubble. I mean, where was your mind at when you were thinking that? So you're like, hey, this skill set's gonna work well. But I mean, when you're seeing kind of everything develop in this space, where you're like, man, this is just getting started, or you're like getting pretty pumped for the future, like where was the mind at?
Well, I mean, when I started on that path, it was the tech bubble was booming. By the time I finished, the tech bubble had crashed. So I saw it from a lot of different angles there. And so, it all goes in cycles. And so, we may be in one of those, economic cycles right now where some things are going to get washed out. But, I've been through a couple of them now. So I'm really happy to know how to position our business, know how to position my personal finances and things like that in a way that's beneficial. But I found out that I was not full geek right out of college when I started programming, because in that career path, you start off as a programmer, and I could program, but not like people people that are fully into it. Like you're saying, the two types of could be two types of co-founders, right, with very complementary skill sets. I'm much more gravitated to the business and entrepreneur and marketing side of things than the tech stuff.
So yeah, no, it's been cool, and I almost think that some of the technology that's been coming out and just all the opportunities that technology has created, it has actually kind of allowed so many opportunities that I felt like it kept the economy strong during some times. I mean, even you not alone just new companies coming from technology, but imagine going through the whole COVID situation without things like Zoom. I mean, what would that have been like?
It would have been great, right? The technology was there at the right time, right? The Zoom technology had been out, had been around, but then all of a sudden there was it was a perfect storm for people to use it. And it was, you saw their stock price because of that. I mean, the usership was crazy on it. And technology evolves, all the time. Right now, there are developers working on something else that will break what is currently already working, right? And that's the evolution of technology, and that's what's so fun about it. But to your point, you got to have the right tools, and you have to be able to understand from a contractor's perspective, right? You have to understand what is available to you and how you can use those tools. It's not that they are anything but tools in your tool belt, right? We went from, when we're talking about the roofing industry, to hammer and nail to nail gun, right? That was just an evolution of technology, right? It's the same thing. All of these softwares that are available to a contractor to use, they are just tools in the tool belt with specific functionality.
Well said. Yeah, the breakthroughs in technology have been incredible over the last 20 years if you really look at what we have now. I mean, I think Gmail was in like the early 2000s even. You're looking at Apple with just the iPhone. Think about how far the smartphone has come. I mean, you look at going from, the big phone to the black phone to the flip phone, right? All the way to the BlackBerry to what we have now with Apple and stuff like that. I was watching on Instagram the other day, and they had like an AI robot, right? And it's having full conversations with people. I'm like, I would be surprised. Think about this. Think about labor, right? Think about roofing labor. I would be surprised if all of a sudden a robot in 20 or 30 years is doing it, right? Because it's safer, right? So no one's going to be getting hurt and stuff like that. So you got to think, if you're a contractor and you're always just ahead of the curve with technology and implementing it, right? You're going to attract people who are like advanced forward thinkers. You're going to be able to serve your customers better. You're going to become more profitable. There's going to be so many different ways to cut costs. It's crazy, don't you think, Jim?
It is, and that's what all technology is meant to build those efficiencies, right? And so that's the goal of it, and just understanding that that's what it is, right? It's to build efficiencies in your business, and this could go a lot of ways, right? There's a lot of AI technology out there right now that's being used, that's starting to be used in the roofing industry, specifically in damage detection on asphalt shingle roofs, right? That's one thing where AI is already starting to come into play, and I really think that it's there. It's just a way. You can't fully automate everything, right? There are things that you can't fully automate, but I think the best technologies that are kind of, as far as more on the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, the CRMs and the production management and measurements and proposals and things like that, lead management, it's building in enough automation to fill the gaps between the human beings, right? So that your team doesn't drop the ball on things, right? I think that's where I see
Mm-hmm.
the biggest, advantages in the current softwares that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I definitely want to talk about the CRMs because I think that's going to be a main focal point for us. Because just off the 30-minute, 45-minute conversation that we had earlier offline, I was like, oh man, dude, I could
Yeah.
brainstorm with Jim for a while, right? We could probably come up with some ideas that we don't even know yet while we're talking, here today. So, but I mean, think about
Yeah.
this. You know, we had Eagle View on, when I did the Start Build Grow show, and he was telling me, he's like, we got X amount of planes, I think it was hundreds of planes flying around, taking pictures and stuff like that, all day, every day. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want to spend money, to get those resources? Like, just something like that is
Exactly.
absolutely incredible, So it's so cool. Now, so with the CRM, you mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
No, and with that, it reduces uh, error, right? Really, it's
Mm-hmm.
when people go out and manually measure, man, there's they're having an off day and they forget to they forget something, or read the tape measure wrong. Like, here you go, now there's
Mm-hmm.
problems down the road, right? So the technology solves those issues in that regard too. It's that reduction of error. It's to the human still needs to be involved, but it's still like it I think the main point there is that, like, we just you know take it out of our hands a little bit, so that it's a little bit more efficient, and that's what the
Mm-hmm.
CRMs do, right? Like, all the good CRMs in all good CRMs do that. They make sure that the right people are being tasked at the right time, and and that the process flows very smoothly from your team's perspective, but also for the customer's perspective, and that leads
Mm-hmm.
to those great reviews, and that great building the good name in the industry of being the go-to company, right? That's the way to go.
Mm-hmm. But you said not only internal but external benefits, right? So you want to
Yeah.
improve communication between your team members, and then also customer facing, so that that client experience, you want to make it where it's as close as possible to the same experience every single time, right? You basically map out that journey, what that looks like, and ideally that CRM allows you to get to that point as many times as possible, right? So with the CRM though, one thing too is we want to remember implementation is going to be a big thing we'll talk about today too. So you want to make sure that you're having somebody, a professional who has experience in that, most likely, that you're investing in, right? Because that's where you're actually going to get the maximum benefits from it. But what Jim was saying was, hey, you want to automate as much as possible, right, to eliminate human error. And another thing is you want to make it where the tool is allowing your team to perform their job better as well, right? So for us, for example, internally, we implemented a tool called Freshworks, right? I don't think we really implemented it 100% right, and it felt like it was actually more work for the people internally to utilize it, right? So now we're adding on additional responsibilities, and the thing really wasn't providing a whole lot of value back. Now we ended up switching, right? So we ended up switching to Zoho. We really streamlined it, right? We have all the call, email, text integrations. A lot of the stuff is automated, right? They push a button and it automatically sends the customer the proposal. The proposal then, once it's signed, saves the attachments for that account, right? The reporting is really well set up. So now, as a business leader, I'm looking more strategically, and now it's night and day, right? Was
Yeah.
it the software? I don't know, but the implementation definitely had a big thing to do with it, right? And now the team has benefited and they're excited about it, right? And they want to use it every day because it makes their job easier.
That's the biggest key, right? Is that, so that's one. I have helped companies implement many CRMs through the years, and the it's the adoption, of the functionality of that CRM
Mm-hmm.
internally. If the team fights
Mm-hmm.
with the technology, which is probably what happened with your first implementation of that, when the team fights with the implementation of it, that's when that's not the right software for you, right? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some of the best systems, you moved to Zoho, and Zoho is one of those systems that is just unbelievably flexible, right? So you can
Yeah.
build almost anything in there. But the time it takes you to build that and the thought process that you have to put into how to build out all of that functionality, it's essentially you're building it from scratch. It has
Yeah.
nothing in it, and then you have to build everything. That's a great way to go when you get to certain levels, right? Or when you want things to flow a certain way, or you have the resources to do that. But a lot of times a contractor doesn't have that, right? They don't have the tech knowledge that you have. So something that's a little bit more out of the box, like a Job Nimbus or an AccuLynx or Job Progress or something like that, some of these are much more easy to implement, and they're already built with the industry in mind, right? So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you're starting from complete scratch. I was talking with a contractor not long ago who is they're working on moving everything over to Zoho because they've hit the limitations. They feel that they've hit the limitations in functionality in the software that they're currently using, in the CRM that they're currently using. And they're like, well, if we can either adjust our processes to the software, or we go and build the software that adjusts, in exactly the way we want our processes to be run. So there's a trade off there, right? It's there's a lot of time that goes into building out custom solutions, a lot of resources that
A
can
lot
go
of
into
time.
that, right? I don't know how long it took you guys to get, and I'm sure you're still continually building it, right? Because it doesn't stop. Where a lot of the softwares in the industry, they're ready, right? You just have to find the one that fits
Mm-hmm.
your processes the best. It may not be perfect. Let's put that out there, right? It may not function
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So there are points with technology, especially in CRMs, where you have to bend to the technology, or because you can't make the technology bend to you, so, or your processes. So good things to think about when you're going out and looking at, or if you're already working in a system and you're like, oh man, this just isn't functioning the way we want it to, right? It doesn't flow the way we want our processes to flow. That's when you may have to start thinking about those more custom solutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything that you said there. And to give you an idea, I was the implementer. Not my point of specialty, but I hit a breaking point as a business owner with frustrations with our current setup. So Friday,
Yeah.
4 o'clock hit, and I opened up Zoho, and I spent like 30 hours that weekend, another 20 that week building it out. You know what I mean? And like you said, everything is customizable. It is absolutely crazy, right? Like it is your canvas and you can do whatever you want with it. But it's like when I built it though, it made me think so much differently about, you know, contractors and the way they operate stuff. For me it was mostly everything integrated. So obviously, I know there's email. I know some platforms offer the text, but I'm like, man, if I'm a sales manager, right, and I'm in charge of passing off leads and stuff like that, and I have a log, right, of all the calls, emails, and texts that my salespeople make on average, right, to these prospects. I know who's going to follow up the best, and who's going to have the best communication to leads for the best opportunity to schedule those meetings. And for me, that was attractive. And then as a salesperson, I'm like, all right, well now I don't have to use my cell phone number. I can get a cell phone number set up into here, and I can call directly from the app.
Yep.
For me, there's just so many. What do you mean? What do you think of that? I feel like there's not enough companies doing that, because
Yeah.
I would love that as an owner.
That's I mean those are great things. That's one of the, like, our lead management system that we provide to our clients. That ability is in there, and so then all of the communication
Mm-hmm.
that happens within there, all of the text messages, emails, it's all in a conversation thread, right? All the email, text messages, and phone calls that get recorded, they're all just in a conversation thread. You could go back and, when you have that ornery customer that's like, you guys told me, you got the phone call, you got the text message, you got the email, you got all of that communication right there that you could go, hey, did my sales rep really tell them that? Because they might have, they might have, but you
Mm-hmm.
could go back and check on that, right? Like all of that, all of the communication tracking, it's amazing how much communication can be tracked these days, right? Like, and in
Mm-hmm.
the tracking of that, boy, you can know some amazing details. Just simply, let's make it real simple here, Nick. Like the
Mm-hmm.
simplest thing is having every phone call that comes into your company needs to be recorded. Let's start there. Real
Yeah.
simple technology, right? This technology has been out there. Why do you need every single phone call that comes into your business recorded? At least that initial phone call, because you have to know if the person answering the phone is doing a good job in selling the appointment. Right? That just simple things like this that get overlooked and most contractors don't do. A lot of times, the owner answers the phone on his cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of technologies. We use one called Dialpad, so all of our company phone numbers are through Dialpad, and every one of our team members has the app for their phone and the app for their desktop computer, so they can call and call in and out, and I could see their call logs and how many calls they've made and all that type of stuff, just right there. Right? And it's all of these things that are very easy to implement. It does cost a few bucks a month for everything that you're doing, but to create that awareness of what's going on in your business from a high level. There's a lot of contractors out there that are self-employed that are not business owners. Right? When you move
Mm-hmm.
into a business ownership kind of mindset, now it's what you're talking about. How can I open up this piece of software and know what's happening in my business versus being the
Mm-hmm.
business, right? When you are the business, when you are
Mm-hmm.
self-employed, a lot of times it's harder, right? Because you know everything, you're involved in everything. But as you start to hire and grow and build a team, that's when the technology is even more important.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, really, really, really well said. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. And if you guys are out there listening to this, we're just letting you know the more stuff you can track and document, the better you're gonna be able to make strategic decisions on a business. Because I don't care if it's reporting or the call recordings or having all the contact points recorded under that account in your CRM, all of a sudden you have that, right? You have tangibles to make strategic decisions, whether it's a number or, like I said, the recording. Like this is actual stuff that you're seeing that's going on in the company, and you can identify what's wrong, what's not working, right, and get rid of it or fix it. And the things that are working well, you can just make sure that you're spending time and more money in those areas, right? So it really is just track, right?
Yep.
And
So
it's
I think that
interesting too
there's
because, oh, go ahead.
No, I think that there's a few, like, let's just put out like key categories of
Mm,
technology that can be implemented, right? So one is in lead management. So that's call recording software at minimum, more advanced in tracking, where all of your leads are coming from, every single lead source, and then being able to identify the cost per lead, the customer acquisition costs, the long term value of those clients, all of that. And then in your CRM, I believe that there's not a lot of lead management and a lot of CRMs in the industry, but
mm,
they do really, really well from signed contract through invoicing. And so being able to, order materials and then using other technology like measurement technology. So now with it that integrate into your CRM, so now you sign a job, you order your measurements, that goes into your CRM, that gets integrated with your supplier, orders get placed, right? All of this stuff is going in. And even, I guess, a step further behind that is the proposal, the customer proposal. So lead management, knowing where your lead flow is coming from, being able to listen to those calls, being able to help your internal team be able to sell the appointment a little bit more efficiently, knowing your lead cost, going into an efficient proposal system, then into your CRM for production, measurement, invoicing, all of that. I think that's like a foundational tech stack is what we refer to in the roofing industry.
The tech stack, right? So what does the tech stack mean? Because to be honest, everything we do is we build tech stacks internally as well, right? So it's
Yep.
basically taking different tools, technologies, integrating them together, right? Usually making that CRM the central hub for everything, where everything is reported there. So that way, even though you're using a variety of different tools, right, everything comes back where the user ideally only has to log into one spot and operates completely from that one spot, even though you have the power of all these different tools. And some of the stuff I'm
Yeah.
sure is probably like, what the hell are these guys talking about, right? But it's just so important though, and it also shows that, hey, the investment, if you're going to invest, X amount of dollars per user for all these different tools, right, it can add up pretty quick as you scale. So why not just take a chunk and invest into somebody to implement it for you? Or if you have somebody internally who's, maybe
Yep.
really, really, really tech savvy, and you are able to take their time and allocate it to that, that will work really well too. But yeah, I mean, always be top of mind, be thinking about these different tools, and be checking them out. I think SMS too. I mean, I know, that's been a popular conversation, but just utilizing SMS, it could be reminders to customers, it could be automated follow up to try to close more deals, whatever it might be, is another great tool that you got to check out.
For sure. That's in that, what I would refer to in that lead management, right? And the automated SMS
Hmm.
messages, really, if you think about it, there's like a 95% open rate on text messages, and like a
Right.
70% reply rate if you set it up properly, right? Where with emails, even your customers, sometimes they're not checking their email as often as they are this little device, right? They have this on their
Hmm.
body all the time. Their email, their inbox, if they're not an inbox zero type of person who checks every email and does it. I have one of my mentors. I think he opened up his inbox. He has like 86,000 unopened, unread emails in there.
Oh my
So
God.
emailing is important, but using all of the ways that you can communicate with someone. So you have phone calls, you have text messages, you have emails, and building that into your process to communicate with those customers and communicate the way that they want also.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And just wait, with SMS, marketers will ruin it eventually, and all of a sudden that inbox or the text message
Yep.
box is going to be full of messages that will be impossible to get through as well. I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but I mean, what do you think about emails? Do you have any process there? Do you go through those every day? Are you answering all the time? I mean, that's one thing that's interesting in terms of just being efficient as an owner
Yeah.
or a high performing individual on the team.
I personally am an inbox zero person, and
Zero.
I have to have them all. Like I have to get through all of them. Um, it could be a negative trait in me, but like I have to clean that out, or it gets to me. So, but I've gotten better. I'm a big unsubscriber, right? So every couple of months, I'm going in and just going unsubscribe, 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 so that I'm
Hmm.
trying to eliminate as much of the noise as possible and just deal with what's most important. I have a friend of mine who he has an assistant that does all of his email now, And I was like, how
Mm,
do you do that? Like, and they like get rid of all of the, and they, they're like, okay, you need to respond to these 3 emails today. That, like, he has a person on
mm-hmm.
his team that, like, let's get rid of the noise. And to the point of marketers will ruin everything. Just so everyone knows, Nick and I, we're gonna ruin everything for everyone
We
at some
sure
point in
do.
time. But it's kind of
We
our
sure
goal.
do.
Um, but
Hey,
but
if we're gonna get a bad rep as marketers,
that's right.
we might as well
That's right.
maximize it. We might as well maximize it.
That's right. But and I don't know about you, man, but man, the amount of spam text I'm getting now, a lot of
Oh
spam
yeah.
text. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that'll change. Like all the way that we communicate will just evolve, um, through time. And when one gets cluttered, another, the phone call is still to me. I I I'm a little older, but I still love phone calls.
Mm-hmm. The good old fashioned phone call. Hey, it's the best way to get a hold of somebody. We do cold calling here now internally, and I'm telling you, a great way still to schedule meetings, right? And so for
Yeah.
me, it's like, hey, have that happy mix, right? So it's like traditional type stuff to generate leads will continue to work, right? And make sure that you're also evolving it, right? It's not one of those things where you have to completely ditch it. And what's great about marketing too is there's no right answer technically, right?
No.
There's a million. I mean, there's infinite different ways you can go about your marketing that could lead you to a successful endpoint. So, and that's what's kind of fun about it, right? Is that you're able to really design your own strategy, and anything that you can do to be unique is awesome. Now, Jim, so I want to take it this way now. So if you're a contractor, right? Let's say that you do, residential, you do some commercial, maybe you're in a store market. I mean, what does your company look like? What tools are you using? What are you looking online? Paint that vision, because I think what's hard is contractors hear so many different things to do, right?
Yep.
And they don't know how much to spend and what. Maybe they're not tracking 100%, so it's hard to keep up to date. And then to make sure that that's working is hard. How long do I stick with it? It's like, what would you do? So if Jim had his own company, what would you do?
So if I were to start a company from scratch today, first thing is to build a really solid SEO friendly website that can be built upon over time, built upon over time to increase your rankings. Uh, get your Google Business profile set up and start getting good reviews. Make sure, if you're starting from scratch, you can also make sure that your Google Business profile is in a location where near your perfect customer. So if you are a residential roofing contractor and you're like, man, that area of town is not where I want to work, but I'm going to put my office there, that's where you're going to get calls from first. So determine where your perfect customer is, because Google is very geographically based. The next thing that I do is I sign myself up for Google Local Services ads. They're on the commercial and
Mm-hmm.
residential side. Um, and that is because the cost per lead for someone actually on the phone with your business is outrageous for that right now. It is so ridiculously cheap. And Google is very good at dealing with those, the disputing of those. So if someone calls you and they're looking for work, or if it's Home Advisor trying to sell you leads, you just dispute it and it's gone, right? You don't pay for it. So you're only paying for things for the leads that you're using. That's what I
Hold on, are
would
you
say
using Home
is the balance.
Advisor? Are you using Home Advisor then? You
I,
mentioned Home Advisor. Are you using it?
yeah. So I wouldn't. That's not the first thing that I would do. Uh, I
Mm-hmm.
the I know a lot of companies that are really successful and crush it at Home Advisor, but that's not the small company.
Mm-hmm.
99% of the companies that do well with Home Advisor are larger, well-established companies with amazing sales processes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your sales process has to be on point to be using a lot of these lead aggregators. So if
Mm-hmm.
you are the contractor that is answering your own phone, I would not recommend using those lead aggregators, right? Because if you're not responding to these leads within a few minutes, they're gone. You don't have a chance, and you paid for it. So you have to have your sales process to an efficient place, in my opinion, before using a lot of the lead aggregators.
Mm-hmm.
Then, going back to it, it's social media, right? So setting up your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, LinkedIn, and starting to post content that speaks to your perfect customer, that attracts your perfect customer. So on an ongoing basis, very consistently posting on social media and on multiple platforms because you don't know where they're watching. That's the foundation to me.
I love that. And so I got a bunch of follow-up questions off of that stuff because I think that's a great starting point there because, you know, obviously the Angie list, because Angie's actually our neighbor now. So we just moved to a new office here in Rhino and in Denver. So our new neighbor is Angie. So maybe I'll go over there and drop off some cookies and see what's going on. But it is funny because you do see right the both sides with tools like that. You have people who will absolutely just shred them, and then you'll have people who are like, "Yeah, I'm making some great money with it," and that always intrigued me because you always wonder, where's the misconnect here, right? Who's doing really well and who's not. Now, first off, I heard some unethical things about selling leads to multiple people, but that's a different
For sure.
conversation, right?
Yep.
Today is, hey, can you make money off of it? Now, what you mentioned is they have to be contacted within a few minutes, right? That's the big thing, within a few minutes. Now, that is 100% correct. Now, there's statistics that say, hey, if you don't contact within the first 5 minutes, conversion rate drops by like 80% or something absolutely
It's not just
insane. Okay.
not just conversion rate. You're getting it. You have an 80% less chance of getting a hold of them. So not just
Of
your
even getting a
conversion rate
hold of
goes
them.
down, of even getting a hold of them after 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, you have an 80% less chance of ever talking to that lead.
So think about
So if
what
you're
that
so
does.
if you let's
If
put that
you're,
in numbers. Let's put that in numbers for people. Let's put that in
mm-hmm,
numbers for people. So you buy 10 leads from Home Advisor at $150 a lead, right? $1,500 spent, but you didn't respond to those people within the first 5 minutes. That means you only have a chance of speaking with two of those 10 leads. Then there's a
mm-hmm,
sales conversion rate on that, right? So now if you're converting at 30, 40, 50, if you're converting at 50%, that's awesome. But if you're converting at 20, 30%, that's less than one per 10 leads that you're getting, right? And then that's where it's like, well, man, I can't even get a hold of these people. Well, yeah. Why?
mm-hmm.
So there's a big misconception there. There's a lot of, and it, I have a great episode on my podcast to plug my podcast, Roofing Success, with Chuck Toki, and we had a great
Mm-hmm.
conversation about this, about how to sell by lead source. When you are selling to a home advisor lead, you have to have a certain sales process that's a little bit different than a referral, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a referral gives you a call, they leave a voicemail, you don't call them back for a day and a half, they're fine a lot of times, right? They're like, oh, he'll get back to me, no big deal. My neighbor told me they were the best company to deal with, so I'm going to wait and see, right? Like, I'll wait to talk to that
Mm-hmm.
person. Someone submits a form online, they're not waiting. They are
No,
not
yeah,
waiting.
no, I completely agree with that, right? So right off the bat, when you're calling that lead, have that up. Where did it come from? That way you have expectations. So what you want to do
Yep.
is you want to put yourself in their shoes, right? So for example, for
Yeah.
us, you got to think for what we do, right? We're prospecting on your behalf, right? So we're reaching out to these people, right? Key decision makers of commercial properties, right? and we get a bite. So we get somebody who might be sitting at their desk, right, reading an email from us saying, you know what, I've had a leak here for a while, and you know what, screw it, I'll do it. Yeah, sure. How about you give me a call? Can you give me a call? Right now, that guy was not thinking about his roof, right? Like it's on his priority list and it's been on there for the last 3 months and he's eventually going to get to it. We finally put it at the top of that priority list for a split second. But I'll tell you this, he's going to get another 3 phone calls of things he needs to get done today. And now that's going to go right to the bottom of the list. So you need to call him right away. That referral is Becky, who lives next door to Sarah, and they go to yoga class together. And she's super stoked about how that roof turned out. She's not in a hurry, right? So put yourself in their shoes and then communicate accordingly.
That's a big point there, and so that's where I think a lot of people get they there's a misconception there, and they have unrealistic expectations, right? When you buy leads from lead aggregators, they are leads. They're not even prospects, right? So I like to differentiate that too. There are leads, and then there are prospects. Until you speak to a lead and determine if they have a problem that your business can solve, they are not a prospect. They are still a lead. So once you have determined that you can solve their problem, they are now a prospect. They're still not a customer because you can solve their problem. That's when that's the sales process, right? Of turning a prospect into a sale. But not everyone that reaches out to you is even a prospect, because people don't know what they're looking for. Here's a good example. Someone owns a small restaurant, right? You guys deal with all the commercial, on the commercial side a lot. But, someone owns a small restaurant, has a flat roof. They're just a small business owner. They don't know who to call. They don't have like the property management company down the, that knows all the best, contractors in the area. So they go to Google and they type in roofing company near me, because they know they have a roof and they have a problem with their roof. But Nick, does every roofing company do commercial? Does every roofing company do flat roofs?
No
right?
way.
But in the mind of the consumer, in the mind of that property owner, they just know they need a roofing company. They don't even know that some roofing companies specialize in commercial, some specialize in residential, some specialize in metal, some specialize in flat roofs, some specialize. They don't even know that. They just go and type in roofing company near me, right? And so there's a lot of, you have to have the right expectation of everything that's happening and understand the buying cycle of your prospects, of your perfect customer. And you may have a few different types of perfect customers. If you have a service maintenance division, you have a perfect customer in that. If you have a replacement or a replacement division, that's residential versus commercial. You have multiple. Storm damage restoration is another perfect customer. What we all, what for our technical jargon in our industry, customer avatars, right? And so understanding the way that people think, the buying process of that person, a homeowner that's looking for a roof repair may still type in best roofers city state, right? They don't know that some contractors only do replacements. They're like, you don't do repairs, really? And, and
right.
No one wants to buy a roof ever. There's no one that's
Exactly.
like, oh my goodness, I've been saving for years for this brand new roof. Nope, doesn't happen. So, we have to take all of that into consideration in this buying cycle, right? So, I don't know, a little bit of a
Well said.
tangent
Well,
for me,
hey,
but
first off though, on the roof, when I get, my dream home, I'm gonna make sure that there's a beautiful roof on it, because now I look at roofs way more than I've ever in my life, man. And when I see a nice roof, that
uh-huh.
looks like a piece of art, I'm like, wow, that is a thing of beauty. So I promise,
Yeah.
guys, when I get my dream home one day, I'm
So
gonna get a beautiful roof on it. Unlike most people who are just like, hey, throw something up there, right?
So I know you're out in Colorado. So is it a mountain home with a beautiful,
Oh yeah.
like standing seam, or you got like, you know what I mean? So the
Ooh.
snow slides off nicely, or is
I feel
it,
like you gotta go with the
what's
standing
your,
seam because if you're in the mountains, man, if you're in the mountains, dude, I
yeah,
gotta go with the standing seam because otherwise, I mean, you see the amount of snow that goes up there. Otherwise, man, you're like, oh,
yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna be a hold up all winter.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right. So
and no,
so Nick
no,
has it picked out. So all you metal roofing companies, just hit Nick up. He's going to be buying that
yeah.
house one day, and he's going to need you.
Well, hey, well, how about this, guys? How about you can sign up for our commercial lead program, right? Help me get the money that I can go invest that
That's
into
right.
my new
That's
house.
right.
No, but but
There you
also too,
go.
you had no, you had a lot of good stuff there for sure on uh the expectation thing. I want to dial this in even more here. I hear people talk about Facebook ads and stuff like a lot.
Yep.
Just remember, like if you have someone doing your Facebook ads for something, and you're getting leads. These aren't just like layups. It's not like you just hire a marketer and they're layups, right? You still have
Yep.
to, put on your best presentation. You still have to close the job, right? You still have to be really good at what you do. Because what I've noticed is, so we work with a lot of contractors, and I've noticed some things about the people that work the best with us and the people that don't. And obviously, there's a million things we could do better. We're always trying to improve, right? But I'm always looking at similarities of people who work well with. Anybody that has admin help has always been a much more successful in terms of booking the
Mm-hmm.
meetings. That's been a big one. And then, we work with it's kind of one-offs actually, but sometimes on a commercial side, the sales rep, because they can make so much commission, if they hear about us, a sales rep will just pay for our program out of pocket each month, right? We have some sales reps that have been working with us for a couple of years now, right? And why do you think they've been doing so much better? It's because they're paying out of pocket and they're going to reap the rewards right away if they close that deal. So, dude, they're like, some people prefer more qualified leads than others. One of the guys, he just wants anything. He's like, just send me anything that bites. I'm gonna call him, right? And so, you know, that goes a long ways, right? So how you execute on the
Yeah.
leads can go a long ways, but of course, we can always do things better. But
Yeah, but that's an understanding of your company culture also. There
mm-hmm,
are there are companies out there that their sales reps are hunters.
mm-hmm,
Give them anything
mm-hmm,
and they will follow up till that they
true,
will follow up until no, I had a company on my podcast. They do 20, I think they're up to like 24 follow-ups that they have in their process now. Like they're going like they treat that opportunity like it's gold. Where there are other sales reps, sometimes that referred to as lead babies, right? Like that they'll just wait for the next one to come in. And if
mm-hmm,
that one comes in and it looks good, they'll work it. But if it goes to a certain point, they don't continue on, right? And so you have to understand your sales reps. You have to understand all of it is just those expectations, and a little bit of it is the adoption, right? We talked about adoption of a CRM or a specific technology in your business, the adoption of certain lead sources. If your team is built for door to door and you start sending them home advisor leads, it's probably not going to work out. That's not the
mm-hmm,
same, right? It's not the
mm-hmm,
same. And so, or if your team is used to, on the flip side of that, if your team is used to having appointments booked for them by the company and they just go out and do their inspection and sell, they are used to that. Now you want to send those people door to door? Nuh-uh. Different person,
so
right?
true.
A good commercial sales rep may not be a good residential sales rep. A good commercial sales rep is good at building the relationship, and they understand that over time that this can be a big opportunity for me. But that single on kind of one offs with the homeowners is a much faster pace. there's not as much of a relationship built there. There's not as much time spent in that relationship to get to the signed contract. So all of that, it all plays a part. So when you're looking at different things, like you kind of mentioned, somebody runs Facebook ads. I call them magic pills, right? People are always looking for the magic pill. You have to also look at, will my team be able to manage this? Is this lead source in the correct style of my sales team?
Mm-hmm. Dang, dropping gems over here, Jim. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you got to think too. So, on one of my jobs, I did 150 cold calls a day, right? Think about some
Yep.
salespeople, they probably wouldn't be a good fit for that position. You got to think, hey, maybe you have your top residential rep, right? Number one producing every single month, right? They knock doors, they close, they move on to the next one. Hey, all of a sudden, when you open up your commercial division, you lean on him. Maybe he's actually not the best fit because that's just not his sales style, right? Who's really, really good at building relationships, organized, detail oriented, very efficient, and mapping out their route for their different accounts and prospects. Oh, hey there. You come here often? I feel like I see you every Wednesday, and you definitely caught my eye. I'll tell you one thing, you know how to stand out from a crowd. You already got a lot of great things going for you. I mean, I see your company, I see what you got going on. I want to be part of it. How about I give you my number and you send me a text? 720-796-4935. Hey, yeah, it's Nick, right? Peakleads.io. I think we can help you generate some commercial roofing leads. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. Well, Jim, man, you've been dropping gems all day. Really appreciate it. Obviously, smart dude. Technology, marketing, business, you name it. Jim, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
For me, any of our social media at the Roofer Marketers, Instagram, Facebook, at Roofer Marketers, TikTok, check us out there. Roofing Success Podcast on all podcast networks and on YouTube, Roofer Marketers on YouTube, or roofermarketers.com. Just go check us out.
Make sure you guys are checking them out, all right? Smart guy. All right, so now we got a quick game before we send you on your way. Like I said, we really appreciate you coming, and we probably could have talked for another hour or two, to be 100% honest with you, because we were flowing. But we got a game, and it's Who Wants to Be a Roofing Millionaire, okay? So you get two lifelines. You got 50-50, which will remove two of the wrong answers, leaving you with a 50% chance of getting the answer correct. And then you got phone a friend. Call one person. They don't pick up. You lose the lifeline. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. Now, these questions are going to be steered based off of things about you. All right. So the first one is, what percentage of online interactions start with a search engine? Is it A, 93%, B, 8%, C, 2%, or D, 54%?
Go with A.
93%. So every single time, right? So if you think 93 out of 100 times that someone is going to the internet, they're going to a search engine, right? Most likely Google, a good percent of it, but that is crazy. So definitely be focusing on Google in your strategy. Now, speaking of Google, I got another Google one for you. All right. How much revenue did Google generate from ads last year? Was it A, $76 billion, B, $125 billion, C, $210 billion, or D, $17 billion?
$74 billion. Is that what it was? Was that one of the answers?
76, 125, 210,
We'll do
or 17.
76. I'll go with 76.
Dude, $210 billion.
Wow.
Oh my, that's an ad revenue, man. So think
That's a
about
nice
that.
P&L.
Yeah, people are paying to play on Google, man. They are crazy. $210 billion. I've been to the campus. When I first started the company,
Yep.
I wanted to go check it out, just some inspiration. One of my buddies that lived down the road from me worked for them. It is crazy, man. They got all the stuff. They got the sleep pods. They got the bikes. They got the cafeteria with free food everywhere, and you can make
Yep.
a box and bring it home. They got a bus that will pick you up and take you to work. It is wild. I guess that's what will happen with the culture when you have $210 billion. All right.
And when you
So
have
that,
93% of people going to your search engine every time they're going online, right?
that will help. That will help. All right. So I got a couple Minnesota questions for you now. All right. It gets cold up there. I'm from the Midwest as well. All right. So on February 2nd, 1996, it was the coldest day in Minnesota history. How cold did it get that day in St. Louis County? Was it A, negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit, B, negative 23 degrees Fahrenheit, C, negative 37 degrees Fahrenheit, or D, negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit?
It was a negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit, Nick.
That is
In
wild. That's correct.
Embarrass, Minnesota. I was working at Giants Ridge Ski Resort as a lift operator that specific day. And they said that we are not closing because 2 or 3 people that were there that day had scheduled their vacation for the year and we're not going to close. So I had to work the lifts that day.
That is a tough man. I'll tell you this, I get it. I never did negative 60, but I've sat at the bus stop at negative 15 as a kid and stuff like that. And I'll tell you one thing, the Midwest cold, it molds you, it builds you, it makes you a strong, strong individual.
That is for sure.
All right,
Or
so
it dumbs you. It may dumb you
it
too.
might. I
So
think it probably does both. I think it probably does both. So, all right. I was stalking you. I saw that you liked the Vikings page. Not sure if you're actually a legit Vikings fan, but because of my stalking and seeing that it was under things about you or pages you liked, I got a Vikings question. Do you watch the Vikings at
all
all or
right.
no?
I watched the Vikings, but there's I can't remember what movie it was from. There was a quote like those guys don't pay my bills, so I
Yeah,
like
that's
them.
true.
I cheer for them, but it doesn't affect my life. So let's
Yeah,
go. Let's see if I
I,
can do it or not.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Well, we got an Adrian Peterson question. He took home the MVP in the 2012-2013 season. How many yards did he rush for? Did he run for A, 1758, so 1,758 yards, B, 2,401 yards, C, 1,639 yards, or D, 2,097 yards?
What were the 1,000 ones?
So we have
The 1,000.
1,758 and we have 1,639.
Do the 1,700 one.
The answer is D, 2,097 yards. He's one of the few players to ever crack the 2,000-yard mark. Yeah. I'm a Packer fan, but that dude could move,
Crazy.
man. That guy was insane. You don't see a lot of people like that, but yeah, 2,097 yards. All right, we got one more
No.
question. We're going back to the internet. All right. On average, internet users make their mind up about a website in how long? A, 3.2 seconds, B, 0.05 seconds, C, 4.5 seconds, or D, 1 minute?
3.2, I'm going with.
0.05, 50 milliseconds. An individual make up, according to the internet. Jim's not buying it. Jim's not
That's
buying it.
crazy.
Well, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you jump on a website, you know pretty dang quickly if you're going to do business with them, in my mind, man. You know, on average,
Yeah.
internet users only take 0.05 seconds to make up their mind about a website. To impress website visitors, you have to have fast load times, right? And above the fold, right? You got to think anything that's right above that fold where
Above
they're
the
going to see it
fold.
immediately, right? And if it's a slow loading site, you might lose them before they even have a chance to look at it.
That's right. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
A half a
Well,
second.
Jim, I gotta tell you, I'm a little disappointed.
Go, man.
You never use your lifelines, man. What's up with that?
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about lifelines and phone a friends. Oh man, I could have. I could
I'm
have.
messing with you, man. I'm messing with
Dang.
you. Hey, we're gonna send you one of these I like big roofs and I cannot lie shirts. So Danae will begin with you, making sure she gets your information. But
Awesome, man.
to end the show, we end it with enlightenment, man. It can be a quote, book suggestion, you name it, whatever you want to leave the viewers with.
One of my favorite quotes is by Jim Rohn, kind of business. He was a business philosopher. He
Oh
passed away
yeah.
years ago, but it's don't wish it was easier, wish you were better.
I love that quote. And I also love Jim, man. That guy was great. I listen to him all the time on YouTube when I'm working out or going on a walk.
Hmm.
Definitely worth checking out. Well, guys, hey, don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better, right? Hone in on your craft. Continue to develop and improve so that those situations become easier to you, right? Because you've developed, right? The situation itself is not actually becoming easier. So, Jim, my man, it's been great having you on. You know, great finally having a chance to hang out. So I appreciate you, bud. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah, for sure.